Welcome to the Elkhorn City Council meeting. The meeting is now called to order, and I'd like to ask the city clerk to please call the roll.
All council members are present.
I'm going to ask you to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and to remain standing for a brief moment of silence. After the Pledge of Allegiance, please join me in a moment of silence dedicated to the memory of Captain David Rosa of the Long Beach Fire Department. Yesterday morning, Captain Rosa was killed from a shooting injury while protecting the residents of a retirement home in Long Beach. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I should also mention that two of our San Diego City police officers were also injured in shootings yesterday, and our prayers go out to them and their families as well. All right, the city clerk posted orders of adjournment of the June 12th, 2018 meeting and the agenda of the June 26th, 2018 meeting in accordance with state law and council authority successor agency to the redevelopment agency policy. Today we have two presentations. The first one is for Waste Management, Recycling Champions. Christine Costa, would you come up and tell us about this, please? And I think Council, we need to go down there with her for this.
Hi. Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor, City Council members, and staff. Thank you for the opportunity to serve the City of El Cajon as the city's exclusive solid waste and recycling services provider. As a proud community partner, Waste Management is dedicated to promoting recycling throughout the city. We remain committed to increasing our public education and outreach efforts for commercial and multifamily recycling businesses as we work together with your city to meet statewide recycling goals. One of our recycling outreach campaigns is our Recycling Champion Award. This award recognizes the exemplary actions of a commercial business and a multifamily property within the city who are doing their part to recycle often and recycle right. I'd like to share two businesses with you in your city that are doing just that. Our first recycling champion is Lake Ridge Park. Lake Ridge Park is located off Swift Lane near Idea Center High School. It is a 100-unit multifamily condo complex with a recycling rate of 47%. It is managed by Helm Management, and as you can see from the photos, they offer recycling containers next to each trash can, which allows residents easy and convenient ways to recycle. There's also a green waste container on site that the landscaping contractor and the residents utilize to dispose of the green waste materials. The on-site maintenance staff monitors what's being thrown into the trash and recycling and physically moves any recycling from the trash into the recycling containers when necessary. New owners are also given recycling information to help encourage them to participate, and it is also provided year-round in their community newsletters. We'd like to commend Lake Ridge Park and Helm Management for their outstanding recycling efforts. Please join me in recognizing Lake Ridge Park as this year's multifamily recycling champion. So unfortunately, they did not have a representative that was available to come here, but they did say thank you, and they're really proud of their efforts, so we'll get them that award. Our second award goes to a commercial business going above and beyond in your city, recycling in your city. The recycling champion for the commercial business is Fox Factory, also known as Fox Racing Shocks. Located in Center Point off Vernon Way, Fox Factory has a diversion rate that exceeds 70%. The property is managed by Harsh Investments, and Harsh Investments has been instrumental in implementing adequate recycling services for Fox Factory's extensive growth over the last couple years. With over 110 square feet of manufacturing space and approximately 360 employees, Fox Factory is dedicated to sustainability and their recycling efforts. Employee workstations are equipped with a variety of recycle bins to capture all recyclables, including cardboard, paper, and the plastic trays that you see here in this photo. They recently implemented paper shredding to the list of recyclables, and that's serviced about every 3 weeks. Fox Factory generates a considerable amount of scrap metal, facilitating the need for a metal recycling program. On an average, they generate approximately 5,000 pounds of scrap metaling per month. Some of the metals include HMS number 1 and high-grade aluminum turnings, as shown in the photo here. In addition, Fox Factory recycles all the aerosol cans that are used out on the floor. The contents are completely removed and then disposed of with the other recyclables on site. And lastly, they recycle approximately 1,000 gallons of used motor oil per year. So as you can see, Fox Factory is committed to doing their part to help preserve our environment for future generations to come. And for these efforts, we'd like to recognize Fox Factory as this year's Commercial Business Recycling Champion.
How's it going? Thanks for doing this. Yeah, this is for you.
Wow, thank you. It's amazing.
Nice to meet you guys. Nice to meet you. Thank you for coming.
They don't want to say nothing? They don't want to embarrass them?
Would you guys like to say a few words or make a long speech? Or
Just a couple quick words. Sorry, I'll sneak over here. First, thank you to Waste Management for the partnership over the years. Much appreciated. Thank you to the city for all the continued support in our endeavors here. Continue to have a very successful business in partnership with the community, and as we speak, are continuing to invest and expand our operations and hire more local workers. So appreciate the partnership on both sides. Thank you very much.
wonderful. Thank you.
Yes.
I think you're done. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Let's get together for a photo.
Oh, no, see, everybody come close.
Let's get to those.
Got somebody in front? Okay. You guys go to the front. It's okay.
Many people.
Nobody cares about it.
They want to see you.
Can't see them.
Kneel down a little bit if you can.
Me?
I'll tell you what, council, come in front there. Just get in front of your board members. Council. Okay. This is going to work. Christine. Okay. Okay, freeze right there.
Try not to be so tall next time. All right, next we have a presentation for the newly completed animal shelter. Director of Public Works Dirk Epperson is here. Would you come up and tell us about this, please?
I'm right here.
Can we go up? Can we go back on our seats?
I'm gonna actually, while I'm talking real quick, I'm gonna have some people come down,
Okay.
and we're gonna recognize them. So, if I could have Jill Jones, Diane Hutchings, Lorraine Glenister, Jesse Liu, Dr. Jennifer Sipes, David Keltner, Sinan Kachi, Robert Lee, Matt Balo, Tom Castillo, Jose Casas, Andy Salicio, Romy Bernabe. If you guys could come down, and while they're doing that, I'm going to play a video. You guys just come line up right in front here. I'm going to play a video, Mayor, while they're all coming down, and we can see this video about our new animal shelter. Hi. No, you're fine. So, Mayor, these wonderful people worked so hard on this project, and I just want to show a quick snippet of them in action. So we're going to take a moment and watch this video. wonderful people work so hard on this wonderful project, and Jill Jones is our manager over at the animal shelter. And Jill, raise your hand. She's done a fantastic job. We also have a couple of our animal care attendants, Diane Hutchins and Lorraine Glenister, here today. One of our animal control officers, Lori Swar, is here. Jesse Liu, our customer service rep. Dr. Jennifer Sipes, our veterinarian. And they make the work happen day in and day out. They care for these animals. They help people, whether they're relinquishing animals or picking up a new forever family member. They are frontline employees who really make a difference in the lives of people out there and the animals that they care for. For the construction, we have our project manager, David Keltner, who did an amazing job on this project. Want to recognize him. And helping with making sure that the building was completed on time and in budget. We have a bunch of facilities guys who went above and beyond and helped us out. Robert Lee, Matt Balo, Tom Castillo, Jose Casas, Andy Salicio, and Romy Bernabe. Let's give them a round of applause. And we would definitely be remiss if we didn't recognize our IT department and all the work that they did to connect this building and make it just a functioning facility. And so Sarah Diaz and her team did a fantastic job. Let's give them a round of applause. So, Mayor, over to you.
Oh, we're really excited about the animal shelter. Thank you so much for everything you all done. Would you like to say a few words?
Well, I wasn't really prepared to say anything, but everybody you see here worked extremely hard on this project, and that was, above and beyond, lots of overtime hours, those kind of things. And so they're really a wonderful group of people to work with.
We've heard so many good things about the shelter. People are saying it's the best shelter in the county. So nicely done.
That's nice to hear, yeah.
All right. Okay. Staff, do you have any agenda changes?
Mr. Mayor, no changes to the agenda.
Council, any agenda changes?
No, Mr. Mayor.
That brings us now to consent items. Consent items are routine matters enacted by one motion according to the recommendation listed below. With the concurrence of the City Council, a council member or person in attendance may request discussion of a consent item at this time. Council members, do you wish to pull any of the consent items? Staff? Angela, do we have any speaker cards for consent items?
No, sir, we do not have any cards.
All right, I'd like to make a motion then to approve the consent items. Moved and seconded, please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
At this time, any person may address a matter within the jurisdiction of the City Council, Housing Authority, or successor agency to the El Cajon Redevelopment Agency that is not on the agenda. Comments relating to items on today's agenda are to be taken at the time that the item is heard. State law prohibits discussion or action on items not on the agenda. However, council, authority, and agency members may briefly respond to statements or questions, and an item may be placed on a future agenda. Angela, do we have any cards under public comment?
We have 4 speakers, and the first one is Jim Sirigliano.
Hi, Jim. Welcome.
Getting some friends here. Okay. Just real quickly, if I may, Mayor, council members, staff. I'm going to do this at every city council meeting. For those of you that don't know, there's a repeal of a bill that a week ago from yesterday, it was official. Okay. And if anyone here that's interested in rent control or affordable housing, I'd like for you to take a look at this here. It's a 2-sided statement. The first one is quite obvious what this says. And on the other side is the bill that we're supporting to repeal. It's called Costa-Hawkins. You can Google this and find out all about it and why we're in favor of repealing this. Like I said, if you're interested at all in affordable housing or rent stabilization or rent control, support this bill. It will be on the November ballot. And while I'm speaking about that, I would just like to give a little special recognition to Bonnie Price, who was the first one that laid this into my lap. And she cares about an awful lot of things, not only this, about seniors, affordable housing. Thank you, Bonnie. And by the way, we may be asking your support. This doesn't directly affect my organization. We're a mobile home manufactured park that's doing a rent mediation process right now. Eventually, we may be doing an initiative, and we may be coming to any registered voter within the city limits of El Cajon for your support. And now, as far as the mediation goes, Mr. Mayor, we're doing everything on our end here right now and working with Tony Shute, the Community Development Department. And we're getting the same stalling type thing, saying they haven't received this or that. And eventually, it has to come to a close, no matter what happens with the mediation. And at that time, City Manager Graham Mitchell, we may be asking for a meeting with you in the future and with Mr. Shute to address this once we finalize this mediation, whatever happens with it, as we did with Mr. Williford. Something else I want to talk about real quickly is that Councilman Kendrick and Mayor, I know you're for re-election. At this time, I would like to request, the City Council consider Form 700 and 460 being put on the city's webpage. This would save an awful lot of time for even Angela, as far as once it was up there, and it would be a great service to the voters.
I appreciate that, sir.
And
your time has gotten up, so.
Okay, and just real quickly, just one other thing I would like to say, that when I come here, it's because I love the city of El Cajon. I love my country. Okay, so, and we're asking you to step up for this reason. It's not that we want to be aggressive or, like I said, it's rather be assertive. And so, and remember, seniors do vote. Okay, and I'll close with that again. Okay?
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bonnie Price.
Hi, Bonnie.
Good afternoon, Mayor and council members. First thing I want to say is congratulations to you for hiring 2 very well-prepared public administrators. I was really impressed at the last meeting when Dirk Epperson and Graham Mitchell went over what they did for the city in regard to street sweeping, collaborative with La Mesa to get a lower price for both municipalities, and for the explanation of competitive bidding for trash hauling. That was really just so professional. I think it's just, you are so fortunate to have such professional people in your administration. So commendations to all of you.
Thank you.
The second thing I want to say is that I would like to ask you to consider calling a housing emergency until the contractors build more housing that's affordable. I understand you have a number of projects in the works, including one on the agenda today, but that's very small. I did talk to Mr. Shute, I think, about it, and he said that there's going to be more housing, multiple family housing. We need to help people, and through a housing emergency, if you have the power, you could maybe stabilize the rents until you get more multiple family housing built. And perhaps if you don't already have the option, allow homeowners to rent rooms in their dwellings, because it's really hard for people to stay in a place if they don't have income that would allow them to afford an apartment. And that's an old-fashioned way. You know, they used to have boarding houses and room rentals. I don't know whether it's still going on and whether it's allowed in El Cajon, but these are some of the things that could be done if you have the legal right to do it. And I hope you'll think about it. I know you can't answer questions, but if you have that already and available for people to rent rooms, people should know about it. And you could put that on your website. Thank you.
Let me ask the question. Graham, is there any prohibition from people renting rooms out of their house?
There are no prohibitions. You cannot have a long-term or short-term rentals in an accessory dwelling unit, but that really doesn't apply to what Ms. Price is talking about.
Okay. There you go.
Thank you.
Thanks.
David Chenoweth.
Well, sir, welcome.
Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor and our City Council members. I first want to say thank you very much to our fine lady, Bonnie Price, for your closing comments at our last council meeting. I think they were very important. And pardon me, what I want to talk about is real important to me. I'm going to try to get through it as fast as I can. It's somewhat complex, and so I decided instead of speaking to you that I'd read to you, and I hate to do that. I'm not a big reader. Southwest Key Programs, Inc. is currently operating a migrant youth internment facility for the Office of Refugee Resettlement at 1160 Broadway. In August and September of 2012, our Planning Commission and City Council approved PC Resolution 10701 and City Council Resolution 9012. Both resolutions approved an amendment to the Conditional Usage Permit 208 for the property located at 1060 Broadway. The amendment made to the Conditional Usage Permit number 208 by these resolutions was to change the approved usage from a state-licensed residential care facility for severely mentally disabled adults to a non-state licensed group residential facility or boarding house for mildly mentally disabled adults. On September 25, 2012, our City Council Resolution 9012 was approved and subject to specific and defined conditions, adding a condition requiring a 12-month review to determine compliance with the conditions of approval and a submission of a report to the City Council from the Community Development Department. On March 25, 2014, Planning Manager Anthony Shute presented our City Council an administrative report, subject line, Council Review of Conditional Use Permit number 208. City Council discussed the administrative report and the status of the 1160 Broadway project. Mayor Wells, rightly I believe, requested an additional follow-up report to be submitted on the completion of conditions of approval for the project 1 year from September 25, 2014. Motion to accept the administrative report and approve the requested additional 6 months of time to complete unfinished conditions for approval carried by unanimous vote. The administrative report Mayor Wells requested on March 25, 2014 does not seem to have ever been reviewed or considered by our public or our City Council. March 25, 2014, on March 25, 2014 was the last time conditional usage permit number 208 was publicly reviewed by our City Council. I know that because I've searched every single City Council minute, every single Planning Committee minute since 2002, every single one of them.
So,
since 2014,
so if I can just interrupt you for a second.
No discussion.
Your time's up.
I need 35 more seconds.
You got it. No problem.
All right. Much has changed at 1160 Broadway since March 25, 2014. A lot. The current property usage by Southwest Key Programs, Inc. at 1160 Broadway is in direct violation of City Council Resolution 9012 and its conditions for conditional usage permit 208. In addition, there is no public record of any review for oversight by our City Council or Planning Commission of the establishment of Southwest Keys Programs, Inc., or their activities at 116 Broadway. I'm asking that we schedule for a City Council meeting a public hearing to review Southwest Keys Programs' use of 1160 Broadway property and consider the revocation of the conditional usage permit number 208. Due to ongoing violations of conditional usage permit 208 and its conditions at the Broadway property. I went to the Broadway property. I've taken a very good look at the Broadway property, the same look a property manager has taken. I know that there has been capital improvements, including electrical improvements and structural improvements in the last 18 months. But I can't find it anywhere on our city's website. So I believe that the facility, because I looked over the fence and looked in, houses a large number of young males that are identified as unaccompanied alien migrants. And so and I saw a boy about this tall, which I believe might be 6 as well, and I witnessed that we couldn't get in to take a look. The press couldn't get in. No one could get in to take a look. The property's hidden from view, has been hidden from view for over a year. I believe what we facilitate at that property is the separation of children from their families at the border. I believe that once they put that over to the Office of Refugee Management, Refugee Relocation, they send them over to Southwest Keys. Southwest Keys puts them in that spot. And I have a really good idea of what's going on in that spot after a number of days review. And what's going on in that spot directly contradicts Resolution 9012. 9012 is specific as to what kind of human being that is conditional usage permit allows. And that is a mildly disabled, mentally disabled adult that requires no actual residential care services licensed by the state. But actually what we have is an internment camp, as fancy as it looks in there. So I'd like the City Council to consider a public hearing on the matter. We're due the report, Mr. Mayor, that you asked for. That hasn't shown up. That in itself is a problem. I don't think the city of El Cajon would have thought too favorably about the usage. I don't think they would have decided we're not going to help the elderly in our community at that facility. We're not going to help the mentally ill in that facility anymore. They've been doing that since 1965 there. We made a change under the cover of darkness somehow. And I think it's our responsibility as the public, and the responsibility of the city council, and the responsibility of the officers of our city to get to the bottom of the matter and report it to the citizens of El Cajon. Thank you for allowing me to go on much longer than I deserved.
You're welcome.
Are there any questions?
Yeah, apparently there's. Ben, go ahead.
Two questions. I think I did hear that you visited the property 1160 Broadway, or did you just peek over the fence?
Well, I walked what I could walk, which was the exterior. I started at the far northeast corner of the facility, peeked over the fence, saw a group of males playing soccer, 3 or 4 of them about this high. None of them looked more than 17. I talked with an employee of the church next door. She told me that at one point in time they were sure that there were unaccompanied alien minors that were gang-membered minors that were in that facility. And then all of a sudden there were children being brought in and mixed into that mix. When they went, she said when she went and asked the city about this, the city told her there was no reason to review the conditional usage permit because the services there were allowed by that conditional usage permit. So then I went around and looked at the front, looked at the parking, looked at some of the things that you would want to see, like how old's the conduit? Conduit's not more than about 18 months old. There are structural improvements on the outside, and from video I've been able to take a look at, structural improvements on the inside, including clinical services, medical services, psychiatric services, and an on-station doctor. That's not what this place is zoned for, right? So cut me off when I get going too long. I could riff all day long. Dude.
Okay, I'll put up my right hand when you do that. So then, specifically, what do you think the current usage for 1160 Broadway under the CUP 208, like you said? What is the exact violation, or what do you think that it was intended to use for?
How do I think they're violating conditional usage permit?
Yeah.
Okay. What the change, condition 308, what that change was about was shifting from a state licensed residential care facility to a non-state licensed group residential facility like a boarding home. Once it made that shift, it had no state license. Resolution 9012 began to apply some very strict standards for the approval of that 208 usage. Those standards were like there wouldn't be, like the people in that place could do their own transportation. They could leave, walk out of the place. They didn't need to be given medical care. It's a boarding home situation. Today what's going on is a full service state licensed facility, not for elderly, not for mentally ill, but for unaccompanied alien minors.
Let me interrupt you a second. I want to get the opinion of our city manager and our city attorney on this.
So, Mr. Mayor, this is becoming more than public comments. I want to be careful, but I'll just quickly note that this property is zoned residential. Under state law, there are certain uses allowed by right. One of those uses is transitional housing. This actually meets the definition of transitional.
Excuse me, what kind of housing?
Transitional housing. This meets the definition of transitional housing. Hence, by state law, it's actually allowed by right, not by CUP, but actually by right.
Okay. So, sir, I appreciate you becoming
what Resolution 9012 says is that note that the group residential facility shall be only for the mildly mentally disabled.
Sir, what I want to avoid is...
I think we need to review all of this.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I'm not unsympathetic to what you're saying, but I want to keep control of the meeting, and this is public comment. So this might be something that would be better to have our opinion given to us by our attorney and by our city manager. And sometime it might be one of the council members wants to agendize this, and that would be a more appropriate venue to have a prolonged discussion on it. But I sure appreciate you coming and bringing it to our attention. I think your points are valid and worth looking into.
I want to note again that I'm looking for support from the City Council to hold a public hearing on the issue.
Completely
Your
understand.
report is due a public hearing, and the current usage is due a public hearing, in my opinion. So I ask, please, that we do that, because this is our opportunity to define what kind of people we are here in El Cajon, California. Thank you very much for all of your time and for allowing me some latitude.
I appreciate it.
Our last speaker is Sunshine Horton.
Hi, Sunshine.
Hi. I don't know if people's going to like me because I'm going to speak from my heart. I'm here to tell people about sunshine. My mother, my sister, and I, in 57, we had to wait a year because immigration laws and welfare laws have changed drastically, because I've been here 62 years. So we had to come to America, and we had to wait for a year. We came to America, and my uncle had to sign papers, because if my mom didn't have a job, welfare? Hell no. There was no welfare. So my uncle had to feed us and everything. Then for the doctor and that, medical? Hell no. We had to go to Tijuana. I had an attack of my appendix in high school, and they sent me home. Okay? I had to go to Mexico, and my mother borrowed money to do it. So I seen a lot. Now, when Obama became president, Porterville, Tulare Country got full of illegals, and every illegal had the right to have a kid, and welfare would pay, and they would pay until he was 18 for medical and food. I mean, people here can't even get married because they can't afford a kid. I'm not saying I don't want to help them, but they can help them in a way of tasting, not indulging. Okay, I've gone through a lot in America, and I learned a lot about America. And everything that is done for them is done with all of yours and my husband's taxes. That's why my husband, they take over $1,000 every 2 weeks for taxes. So I'm not saying I cannot help. There was a Bracero law, but then Cesar Chavez took it, because I remember when I was little, people that work here, they would come and bring us oranges and tomatoes and everything. So there's a way with common sense that we can come together and help all the world. That's why I don't ask what America can do for me. I'm grateful to America. I ask what I can do for America, and I do it in little ways, because my friend, she went to get help because she has kids and they have insurance and all that, because she didn't have insurance. And you know what they told her? Well, if you were illegal and pregnant, we would help you. People have to realize and look into where the taxes are going. Yes, I feel for the world, but we have so much to do. I mean, that's why I do for the world here as much as I can, so I don't feel guilty that I'm not doing anything. I'm doing a lot, and I have my whole garage plastered with things that people can come and see it. I don't take time for granted. I do something with it, okay? And I'm back because I bought shirts and the concerts, and I'm working the concerts every Friday. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay.
No more cards.
All right. There are no written communications. And going to the next page. We're now at public hearings. Item 10 is for a public hearing for the 2018-2019 annual City Housing Authority and successor agency budget. Staff, would you tell us about this, please?
Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council, at your June 12th special City Council meeting, staff presented the preliminary annual budget for fiscal year 2018-2019. At that meeting, staff presented a financial plan for the next fiscal year that balanced the budget without relying on reserves. Overall, the budget appropriates approximately $175 million in expenditures for the upcoming year when you include all the different funding sources. Staff recommends that the City Council conduct a public hearing and consider the budget. After questions are addressed, staff recommends that the City Council consider 4 resolutions which are identified in the staff report. After the City Council has adopted those resolutions, staff recommends that the Housing Authority Board, so I'm asking you to put on a different hat, but the Housing Authority Board adopt its budget resolution, followed by the successor agency adopting its budget resolution. With that, staff concludes its report.
Thank you, Graham. All right, council, any questions or comments for staff? All right, public hearing is now open. Angela, do we have any speaker cards for this?
No, sir, no cards.
Then I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing. Moved and seconded, please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
All right, the budget's fairly complicated, but we had a session before the meeting last time. Then we talked about it again during the meeting, and I think everybody's had a chance to look it over. If you wanted to discuss it now or discuss any changes or options, now would be the time to do that. Anybody have anything they want to discuss? All right. Then I think it's time for the motions, and there's a. Do you want this all at once or one at a time?
You could. It should be done individually because they're each individual resolutions.
All right. Gentlemen, if somebody would like to take on that task.
Move the resolution of the City Council adopting the fiscal year 2018-19 annual budget.
Second.
Moving second, please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
Acting as the Housing Authority Board, adopt the resolution titled Resolution of the El Cajon Housing Authority adopting the fiscal year 18-19 budget.
Second.
Please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
Acting as the successor agency to the former Redevelopment Agency Board of Directors, adopt the resolution titled Resolution of the City Council of the City of El Cajon as the successor agency to the former El Cajon Redevelopment Agency adopting the fiscal year budget 18-19.
Second.
Please vote.
Mr. Mayor, there are 3. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, votes tallied. There are 3 other resolutions under the City Council's hat. So if you look at your agenda cover sheet, there's a under 1. There's resolutions B, C, and D as well. We would recommend that the council adopt those as well.
You mean
If
A, B, and C?
So you adopted the resolution that's identified under 1A, which is the resolution adopting the annual budget, but the next 3 resolutions should be adopted as well.
All right. Well, then, Bob, can you go to resolution 1B?
Mayor?
Resolution.
Excuse me, Mayor. Before you proceed to that, the resolution for the successor agency, the vote on that carried by unanimous vote.
Thank you. Sorry to cut you off there.
Resolution approving and adopting the annual appropriations limit for fiscal year 18-19. Can I put them together? Resolution approving the designation of general fund balances, approved proposed changes to El Cajon City Council B1 budget adjustment and capital expenditures.
Second.
All right. Please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
Great. Thank you very much. Item 11 is a report on the acceptance for the El Cajon Animal Shelter Project. And staff, would you please tell us about this?
Mayor and City Council members, as you saw at the beginning, we're definitely celebrating the completion of the Animal Shelter Project. We like to bring these things before the public just to bring attention to good news items. And this is certainly a good news item, so we put it on the administrative report. This is merely a recommendation that the City Council accepts the El Cajon Animal Shelter Project and authorize the city clerk to record a notice of completion. And we are certainly proud of this project. While the Public Works Department had a hand in building it, it was definitely a team effort amongst all city departments, and we certainly express our gratitude for the collaboration that existed there. And for those who attended the celebration and the ceremony, I'm sure you all agree that it was a wonderful event.
It was. All right. Council, any questions or comments? No. Angela, any speaker cards?
We do have one speaker, Peggy Buffo.
Hi, Peggy. Welcome.
So the old days of telling where I live is gone. I'm Peg Buffo, and I live at 215 South Sunshine, El Cajon. And I am chairman of the ACES Foundation, which is a nonprofit that assists the El Cajon Animal Shelter. And we wanted to take this opportunity to thank the city for finally getting this project done. It took a while, but we were able to see the fruition of the great new shelter, and we're very pleased. And we wanted to say congratulations and thank you very much for all the hard work that was put into it. Our animals are going to appreciate it. And just to throw something else, our organization is having a fundraiser this Thursday at the Downtown Cafe. We help the El Cajon Animal Shelter with their needs that the city can't fund. So I'll give you each a flyer, and again, thank you very much for all your work.
Thanks for all you do for the animals.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, Council, any further discussion, or would someone like to make a motion?
I'd recommend that the City Council accept the animal shelter project, authorize the city clerk to record a notice of completion and release the bonds in accordance with the contract terms.
Second.
All right, please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
All right. Item 12 is regarding the First Amendment to the Disposition and Development Agreement with Brixton Fletcher, LLC. Staff, please tell us about this.
Certainly, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council. First, I want to point out that there's a revised staff report that was distributed to the City Council and to the public. That revised staff report includes some corrected dates for the purchase and sale agreement, and it replaces a development reimbursement agreement with a purchase and sale agreement. I'll talk about those in a second. On July 11, 2017, about a year ago, the City Council approved a disposition and development agreement, or a DDA, with Brixton Fletcher LLC for the development of a 96-room Hampton Inn and about 16,000 square feet of commercial space on the former police station site. Later, on February 6, 2018, the city in Brixton entered into a purchase and sale agreement which established a closing date for the sale of the land. The purpose of this agenda item is to present two amendments. One is the First Amendment to the DDA, and the other is the First Amendment to the Purchase and Sale Agreement. I'll start with the Purchase and Sale Agreement. This amendment merely establishes a date of July 13th as the close of escrow. This is not this is the deadline, but we anticipate escrow closing before July 13th. This amendment is provided in the revised staff report. The amendment to the DDA includes some additional city responsibility, which includes the undergrounding of overhead utility lines that run on the property, and also agrees to reimburse the developer for up to $225,000 for public improvements that the developer will make in the city's public right-of-way. Staff recommends that the City Council adopt the resolution which approves the First Amendment to the DDA and also the First Amendment to the Purchase and Sale Agreement. Staff's available to answer any questions that you may have.
Thanks, Graham. I appreciate that. Any questions, staff or council? Steve?
Unlike the courtyard project would have some sales tax sharing arrangements. This property does not include the city sharing any transit occupancy tax, I should say, agreement. So that's going to come in at full TOT, isn't it?
That's correct. We'll receive 100% of the TOT generated from the project.
And my understanding is that the city was potentially at risk for about $700,000 in undergrounding of or relocation of the underground utilities. So we've created this new underground utility district using SDG&E undergrounding funds, and that's because staff pleaded with SDG&E the case going back to the 60s on why this was. So that saved the city $700,000, didn't it?
That's correct. And the additional $225,000, we've been able to cobble together funding sources that are non-general fund that are intended to be meant for public improvements.
So that's a huge savings for the people of El Cajon. My final question is, are there any incentives for this group to expedite its development of this property?
So one of the concerns always is, especially in a project like this where there are two different components, there's the retail component and there's the hotel component. One of the things that the DDA allows is for the construction of the retail component to move ahead of the hotel component. However, if there are not what we call sticks up, and if construction has not started, real construction has not started on the hotel, the commercial property cannot receive certificate of occupancy. So that is the incentive for the hotel project to move forward quicker than being delayed for an extended period of time.
So that retail component would be the In-N-Out Burger, for instance. They can't collect rent from In-N-Out Burger because the certificate of occupancy will be granted until they've done their part in the hotel.
That's correct.
Okay.
Great. Any more questions? Angela, do we have any speaker cards on this item?
No, sir, we don't.
Okay. Is there any further discussion from council, or would someone like to make a motion?
I'd like to recommend that the City Council adopt a resolution approving the First Amendment to the Disposition and Development Agreement between the City of El Cajon and Brixton Flaxshire, and to the First Amendment to the Purchase and Sale Agreement between the City and Brixton.
Second.
Moved and seconded, please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
Item 13 is regarding City Council Policy A29, compensation plan for executive and unrepresented employees and the city attorney. I'll ask City Manager Mitchell to tell us about this, please.
Certainly. Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, in 2016, the governor signed Senate Bill 1438. Essentially, SB 1438 required that city councils receive an oral report from the mayor about executive compensation. The city currently has members of its staff that are not represented by a labor group. It's the executive team and confidential employees. And the purpose of this agenda item is to present that information to the City Council at a public meeting. The agenda report includes an attachment that has the recommended changes to the executive packages. These increases mirror those that are being granted to the general employees of the city. And at this point, Mr. Mayor, I'd turn the time over to you to provide the required report.
Yes, I'm going to read something which I'm required to by law. In accordance with Government Code Section 54953, changes to City Council Policy A29 propose to increase the annual compensation of management level and unrepresented employees by 2.5% for the next fiscal year. This salary increase is proposed to apply to the city manager as well. Additionally, the item proposes to increase cafeteria benefits of the same employees and provide public safety management employees with a stipend. All right. So, council, you have any questions or comments? Ben?
I'd like to see if anybody else has any comments before I start. I don't want to give everybody an opportunity, so I want to defer in an effort to eliminate any conclusion that I'm speaking strictly from political grandstanding or anything. So I just want to give everybody an opportunity to talk, but I do have a few questions.
Does anybody like to speak before Ben? The floor is yours, Ben.
Thanks. I know I'm probably going to offend some people in this room. I assure you that that's not my intention. I want to first say that I'm not against raises, not in principle and arguably not in theory. But what I have an issue with is blocking everybody together and giving everybody raises as opposed to looking at each department, each person, each job scope. And the most important thing is being a student of economics is replaceability, because we have an opportunity and a responsibility running a city with your money that we have to treat every job differently, because there are certain jobs when we put out to the public, you get a flood and barrage of people interested in wanting to do the job. And then there are some where I admit it's cheaper to give people raises to keep them on because it costs more money to train. And so I want to lay that out there, that I'm not against raises, but I'm against it being in a block that way. So while there are certainly people who deserve raises, I would argue that some more than others and some none at all. Just like normal people out in the field, out in the workforce and private sector. Now, replaceability is it's a scary word for most people, but we have a responsibility to put that out there. And when an employee of a certain job or a certain position gets too comfortable, in my opinion, it's not good for anybody. So while it's probably not the normal thing you hear at City Council, and some people and staff are probably listening and thinking, well, what does he mean? Again, I say I'm not against raises. That it isn't my position whatsoever. But I do want to look at performance and what it would cost to replace if we need to, because that's what we have to do. Because I want to be as transparent as possible. Let me just put that out there. And I'm concerned, obviously, about either budgets or how we spend our money. And so when you're listening to me, I want you to know that that's the place where I'm coming from. It isn't anything political. I could care less about that. What I care about is getting the best person for the job. And if it's easier to get somebody at this price than it is giving raises, then I'm for doing that. I'm for saving as much money as possible because I'm frugal, but I'm also disciplined. So, and if you're listening to this and member of the staff, I might not be talking about you. I'm not talking across the board, but I'm just laying out my concerns. And whether you agree or not, or believe in it or not, I'm going to be here long after everybody's gone. So and I'm concerned about where our money and how our money is spent. This is not from a political standpoint. Again, I reiterate, I could care less. But I just want to say that. So I would only be voting no against this because I want it not in a block. I want it per position, department head, what have you, because that's the school of understanding where I come from. And in my current position, and even in a previous life where I've hired and had people that work under me, dozens and dozens, sometimes 100 at a time, that's what we did. And arguments like it's standard practice or other cities do it, I don't care. We have a unique situation in El Cajon. It's unique. It's not like any other city, and so on and so forth. So that's the position that I want to kind of lay out there and unpack for everybody to know and to understand where I'm coming from. And again, it's probably going to be twisted in some other way. I'm not against raises for the fourth time. So I thank you with that, and if anybody has any questions for me.
Any comments, Bob?
I'd like to have Graham maybe comment on the fact that it would be very difficult to go employee by employee. Like, if you're running a business and you have 60 employees or 50 employees and you have different managers at different departments and they come in and say, how about, changing this level or something like that. But I don't think that's the case with cities. I think it's a little more as a group type thing. Like they have associations at the municipal employees, the police officers, the firemen. There's different groups, and if they weren't doing a good job, I'm sure they'd probably be, congratulations, thanks for working for us, goodbye. But I think that staff keeps a pretty good eye, and management keeps a pretty good eye on the management staffs that pretty much they're the ones getting these increases, which are the same as what the other groups got. And so it's a little hard when you have 300 or 400 employees to go around and individually grade each one. There might be something great that they did during the year, and maybe they don't get recognized for it. Maybe this is a form of recognition. But and I think another thing too is our city is competing against other cities that if we don't improve our employees' positions, they take off for other cities, and it costs a lot to retrain a person in these supervisory positions. So I'm going to vote yes on this because I think it's in our best interest. We don't want to have a mass exodus because we didn't treat our employees right, and then the city would falter greatly trying to replace all these people and retrain them all. So I think that we're doing the right thing, and I'm going to vote yes on it.
Ben?
While I respect Bob, I have to disagree, and I think I already laid out his argument before he said it. He said that other cities do that, it would be hard to do, and we have to reward them. Just because other cities do it, and it's the normal thing to do, normality in government, it gets us in trouble. And that's why, because we're not really good at spending your money. So just because other cities do it, that's probably, that to me becomes a red flag. And I already stated that it's sometimes cheaper to pay raises as opposed to rehiring new staff. But it's all about the demand for positions. So if I was to pose a question as for our vacancy assistant city manager position, we put out obviously a request, and Graham's been trying to get an assistant city manager. Now, clearly, that position would draw in a ton of interest. Over 100 people. So what that tells me is that's over 100 people that are interested in doing one job. So while the theory of having an exodus and that scare it's just not real. There are plenty of people that want to work at the city for benefits and a plethora of other reasons. So business as usual, I'm just not in favor of business as usual, as you can probably hear. But supply and demand are important here. And replaceability is also something we have to talk about here. And if you're staff and you're listening to me, I might not be talking about you and your position. This is not across the board. That's why I don't want to generalize. I'm not trying to gloss over anything. This is just specific. And if it's hard to do, whether you have 80 employees or 100 or 300, I'm up to the challenge. Let it be hard. If we can save money and get the best people, let it be hard.
Steve?
I got a different view on this thing. I don't think we're giving a 2.5% raise to people. I think we're giving a 2.5% raise to the range within the job classifications shown on here. It's up to the city manager to determine individual compensation. Am I reading that right?
Yeah, I would treat this more of as a cost of living to the ranges within each position. And if you notice in the attachment, there is. I appreciate Mr. Klosch's comments about how there is a demand for certain employees that are more difficult than others, and there's a skill level and a management of a few employees versus a management of 100 employees. There is a different compensation, and I think that is captured in how our staff is currently compensated. So there is not every department director makes the same amount. So I think that is reflected in the way we do things.
But the vote today is a 2.5% increase on the range, not to a specific person's compensation.
That is correct, but it does equate to if someone is in range C, for example, it'll modify the range, but then it'll also be implemented by giving that individual. If they're in step C will now have 2.5% more value.
And that's at your discretion, though. Our vote here today is on the range, correct?
No, it would if they're in step C, I don't have a discretion to withhold a cost of living. They would continue in step C at that 2.5%.
Okay.
So piggybacking off of that was what I guess the crust of what I was speaking of, because the person making 200K at 2.5% is a lot different than the person making 46K getting that 2.5%. That's what what I want people to understand, right? So there's a difference between an increase of a $5,000 annual to somebody as somebody else getting $500. So again, I just want to leave it at that, right? So that way I unpacked my concerns for everybody, and that's why I'll be voting no for it. But it is in no means a reflection of my stances against raises.
All right. Any other thoughts? Staff, anything else you wanted to say before?
Nothing, we're good.
All right. Let me see where we're at with this. Angela, do we have any speaker cards on this item?
We do not, sir.
All right. Any more discussion from council, or would someone like to make a motion?
Move to approve the changes to City Council Policy A29 described below on the attachment, and acknowledge the adjustment to the city manager's compensation in accordance with the terms of the contract.
Second.
Moved and seconded, please vote.
Motion carries with a 4-1 vote, with Councilmember Kalasha voting no.
All right. Brings us to commission reports. There are no commission reports today. That brings us to activities of the mayor and council. Item 14 is my activities report. And we also have item 15 with a legislative report, and I've got something to read on this. Since the last meeting, SB 946, the bill which restricts local cities from regulating sidewalk vendors and vendors in city parks, continues to pass through committees in the Assembly. The bill is moving through on party lines. 2 weeks ago, we sent another letter expressing our concern. At our next meeting, I am sure I will have more to update the city about this on this bill. I wanted to also point out that we received a memo from staff regarding 2 water-related bills signed by the governor. As the memo stated, these bills authorize state water agencies to conduct studies and make recommendations for long-term water use standards. Some of these recommendations being studied would have a significant impact on water users. Because at this time there are no immediate impacts of the water-related legislation, I recommend the City Council direct staff to observe this implementation of these bills and to report any notable actions taken by the state water agencies. That's the end of my legislative report. Now, before we go to the rest of our reports, I believe we have a speaker.
Mr. David Chenoweth.
Time before, so I'll be as brief as I know how to be. I don't know, maybe I've had 1,000 people work for me in my lifetime. I lost count years ago. I've always tried to find a reason to get the best price I could on labor or on representation, anything like that. So when I read some information about Mr. Gadler operating essentially or being appointed as a representative to the Mission Trails Regional Park Citizens Advisory Committee, and that he'd been doing it for 28 years, and it appears as if he's been doing it at no charge to the city for 28 years. And if it was my company or my operation, I'd be ashamed of myself. The man is worthy of some kind of compensation for that time spent and that valuable purpose. So I would join with our council member and ask that the city manager bring this item back to the city council for formal discussion and decision making. Thank you for your patience.
All right. Mayor Pro Tem Gary Kendrick.
As reported.
Bob.
As reported.
Ben.
They are as I've reported them with an agenda item 19.
Go ahead.
So I want to first thank David for speaking about the agenda item that I placed in favor of it. And basically it is, like he said, it's to bring it back for a future agenda item so that we can discuss nominal compensation for the gentleman who has been representing us at Mission Trails Regional Park Citizens Advisory Committee. There needs to be an acronym for that one. So move, yeah.
All right, let me see if there's any council member questions about this. I have a couple questions. This is not our committee, right? This is a county committee, right?
Correct. It's actually, I'll be honest, I think it's the City of San Diego committee. I know there's 18 board members or committee members, and I know it's staffed by the City of San Diego. There may be some county involvement too, but El Cajon, Santee, La Mesa, the county have representation, as well as San Diego State University. Most of the Native or Native American groups have some representation. So it's a pretty broad group, but it's not our committee.
You may not know this, but are other members of this board being compensated?
I'm looking at Mr. Carson, who did inquire, and there's no one else being compensated right now.
Has the person who's representing us asked to be compensated?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. Angela, do we have any speaker cards on this item?
No, sir.
All right. Any further discussion from council, or would someone like to make a motion?
Well, we should note that the compensation I'm suggesting is $150 a month for this person's time who has worked in that position for over 20 years. So it's just $150. Make a motion. Is that what you're asking for?
If you'd like to, yeah.
Yeah, I'd make a motion to approve. What number? I lost track. Number 19.
Is there a second? Oh. Motion fails for lack of a second. Councilmember Goebel?
As reported.
All right, there are no joint council member reports and no general information items for discussion. There are no first readings of ordinances today. Item 21 is a second reading of an adoption for the Bostonia Greens, a common interest development of 7 new residences. I'd like to ask the city clerk to read the title, but first, Angela, are there any speaker cards for this item?
We have no speaker cards, and the title for the ordinance is an ordinance rezoning property located on the east side of Bostonia Street between Broadway and Cocker Way, APN 484-24019, from the RS6 single-family residential minimum 6,000 square feet to the RM 2200 multi-family residential minimum 2,200 square feet, pending general plan designation, low-medium density residential, LMR.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion then to approve the ordinance. Or, I'm sorry, not approve it. Adopt the ordinance. Moved and seconded, please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
This brings us to adjournment. The adjourned regular joint meeting of the El Cajon City Council, El Cajon Housing Authority successor agency to the El Cajon Redevelopment Agency, held this 26th day of June 2018, is adjourned until Tuesday, July 10th, 2018 at 3 o'clock p.m. Thank you.